Welcome back. My name is Erline Mango, and I'm here with you on the podcast Agile Lemonade, which is the great extension of the amazing nonprofit Built for Agility. This segment that we've started with Agile Lemonade is called the Transparent Corner. And what we're doing with the Transparent Corner, we are sitting down with different members of law enforcement, be it retired or active, and get a better understanding of who they are, what they're going through, and kind of bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community, letting us know that they're human, and also getting their perspective on what we should do, what they should do to make sure we have a better understanding with each other. But before we go any further into this segment of Transparent Corner, I have with me today Lance Watkins, who's going to help me with this interview. He's going to tell us a little bit about Built for Agility and the amazing work that they're doing.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much. I'm Lance Watkins, and I am one of the board members, and I'm also a public safety advisor for Built for Agility. So Built for Agility, basically, it's a nonprofit organization that's focusing on creating self-healing communities through the use of transformative and educational programs. We are hyper-focused, though, on social justice and civic transformation. I thought it was important to have some law enforcement officers come in and just discuss what it feels like and what it is to be a police officer in the current times, and especially being a male police officer in these current times. We know that when you watch the media, it portrays us a certain type of way. But I thought it was important for the communities and the citizens that we serve and protect to actually get a feel of what we go through, and to also recognize that although we wear a badge and a uniform, we're still human as well.
Thank you, Lance. So this is the second time we were doing this. We sat with some women officers a few weeks ago, and now we have two male officers, and you remain anonymous so you can feel comfortable and feel transparent and tell us exactly how you're feeling. I want to say thank you for being here. It's really appreciated. So first question I want to ask both of you, was becoming a police officer like your dream, your goal? You first.
No, not at all. I never thought I'd be the police.
Why?
It was just never in my nothing interests me about police work. Mm-hmm. I didn't become interested in police work until I was almost 30.
Oh, okay.
But prior to that, parents had no law enforcement friends. We had limited interaction with the police, and it was just something that was done, in that group. But I had no desire to be police.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to be a special effects artist, and I really thought I was going to go to Hollywood and be a big time gore and guts and making dinosaurs and all that type of stuff. But
that clearly did not happen.
Did not happen. Okay. There's not a lot of opportunity.
Never
here.
Too late, though. Never too late.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. What about you?
That would be a no as well.
Really? So what changed your mind? What did you want to do?
Unless you want to be a lawyer. As a kid, I want to be a lawyer. Seeing Johnny Cochran as a kid and, like the OJ cases would really spark that. Johnny Cochran looked like a demigod, somewhat of a god in the courtroom. And just seeing a black male lawyer on a major case like that as a kid, that's what I want to do.
And what changed for you?
My mother passing away and moving into I guess I'd say, not so good school district.
Mm-hmm. But what was the change though? Like what was it that said, I'm not going to be an attorney. I'm going to go into law enforcement. Something had to have happened.
Being in that type of environment, just nothing about it that promotes or makes you believe that you could do anything more than you're just struggling just to get out of where you're at, get out of your environment. You're just fighting poverty in a sense, poverty and just getting out of this less than area. I'm just being honest.
No, I want you to be totally honest, because many people who grew up in an environment where growing in an environment is less than, you have many avenues you can go down. So what made you say that I want to be part of the change, though, and part of enforcing something different is what I'm asking you.
As I got older, people would always ask me, you ex-military, you a police officer? And I'm like, no, I never thought about police work. I'm no different than, like he said, I knew one police officer growing up in the neighborhood. It's a neighborhood policeman. It's the only person I ever knew, black police officer, so it didn't seem like a job that was even viable to me.
Right.
I'm just being honest. And then I ended up working in a jail in Houston around more police officers, and I kind of got educated on how it goes, and I realized, I can do this.
Okay. See, I knew there was something. You can't just tell me that I knew there had to be something, because what you do is a dangerous job. And I will ask you, Lance, as well. What you're doing is dangerous, and it can be seen, and it is seen in many ways. Many people do not like you because you are a police officer. If you grew up in an environment where it wasn't positive, why would you then shift to want to be a police officer where you could do something totally different? That's why I wanted to know, what was that big shift for you? Because now you were around other people. You saw them in a different light that shifted your mindset on being a police officer. So, Lance, did you always want to be a police officer?
Of course not.
Of course not. So,
of course not. No, my first love was I wanted to be a pediatrician. And then I switched to accounting. And then once I graduated, because I'm much older than these two young officers in here, so my time was a little different. Went into college. It became broadcast journalism. Mm-hmm. That was a love of mine. And I was working in New York City during the time. And then basically there was a downfall as far as the jobs. A lot of people were getting laid off. Okay. And my mother told me, she said, hey, listen, why don't you take a city job? You won't be a millionaire, but at least it'll be consistent with pay. So I said, okay, fine. And I applied for many different city jobs. And then I got picked up by, first, the correction department. And once I went in there and I saw how much money I can make, because at that time it was $24,000 a year, but I never saw $24,000. My first year as a young person in that field, I made like $50,000. And I'm talking about I was like 21.
Oh, yeah.
So $50,000 living at home at 21, man, you couldn't tell me, right? So then it just kind of like stayed in that direction, you know, and then I made a lateral move over to the NYPD.
Been that way ever since.
Yes. But I always had the help within inside me, or wanted to be in a help field.
Okay. Historically, the police and community has been a struggle for Black people, and the history of what a police officer has been for us is very well known. And I think we amplified that quite a bit in 2020, 2018, 2019. And being a person of color, being a Black man in law enforcement, knowing the struggle and the history of it, and you're not liked already just walking around out of your uniform. You're going to be super hated now that you're in your uniform. But what I want to ask you is, as a Black man working in law enforcement, one, the struggles of being in this field amongst your peers, how has that been for you? And then also amongst the community, how has that been for you? Because of recent, with everything going on, the hate is different towards you. So I want to know, how's that struggle been for you?
The struggle as far as my peers, I don't know that there's a struggle amongst us. We're all different. Excuse me. But the one thing we are taught, no matter what our beliefs are, no matter how much we mess with each other in roll call, we know we have to depend on each other. Okay, so as far as my shift that I work with, we don't always get along, but at the end of the day, when I drop that call for help, they're going to be there. Likewise, when they drop that call, I'm going to be there. You know, as far as the community, I still get, and when I get off duty and I go to the store or I'm getting gas, you know, mom and child walk by, and the first thing mom or dad says is, hey, if you don't be good, he's going to take you to jail. Yeah. And it's things like that that really irk me, because you're instilling in that child from a young age fear of the police, and when you do wrong, you're going to go with me. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to take people to jail. We are here to help people. So if you instill in that child from a young age to fear me, how would that child go to me when they need help? And that's why I have to correct the parents. And there's so many times I get cussed out by the parents when I say, that's not what I'm here for. Stop telling them that.
Right. And
then they tell me in so many words to F off, and then, you know, I'm wrong, and they can tell the child whatever they want. So it's a
losing-lose.
Yeah, I can't win.
That's one area. But you're Black in America. And if you haven't had this experience, then you haven't had the experience. But when things happen, when it's either blatant or not blatant, because we as citizens may not understand everything, right? So it's up to you to educate us. But when you're amongst your peers, and clearly you have someone who's white, Hispanic, Black, at the end of the day, how do you feel about when certain things come up in the media or amongst your job, is there a divide sometime amongst you, even during your shift in your surroundings when it comes to your peers, when there's something's racially charged? Do you have to struggle with, I'm a Black person, but also I am law enforcement, or trying to educate someone on, this is why you don't understand where this is coming from. Yes, this is this, but you don't understand because your background is different. You didn't come from a background of suburbia or this and that. You came from, it was ugly. I saw different things. So I'm understanding, yes, they're wrong, but I'm understanding why it's happened this way. Because everyone's frame of reference is totally different.
Of course, I can relate to part of why they do what they do, but it goes back to, I still understand being raised from a biblical standpoint, and then the law is based off of the Bible. It's very easy to understand what's right and what's wrong, and then your background has nothing to do with it. Your upbringing has nothing to do with it. When you there's certain things that's going to be right and certain things going to be wrong. So there's certain things you cannot tolerate or excuse.
Right.
You know, you can understand it, but you cannot, well, they get a pass because that just doesn't work. Because if we give passes to everybody for every little thing, there's no sense of law, justice, order. There's no direction. You have to have direction.
And what about for you?
I don't feel too many struggles amongst my peers. Education, I mean, that's just part of it. I believe myself to be articulate enough to explain it, and I've had to do that plenty of times in the roll calls. Hey, I see you see it this way, and they ought to do this. They should have done this. Hey, wait, hold on.
Right.
I'm just gonna tell you the way I was raised up. Hey, we didn't. You see the police, you turn around, you look the other way. You don't. Hey, I mean, it's all about, you got to educate people. I mean, they're not from your culture, your community. They're not gonna understand the way you saw the police, or you being in that same situation when you were 15 years old in the neighborhood, standing outside in your driveway. The way you reacted compared to. No major struggles. Is
it hard to have that conversation, or do they kind of understand once you kind of break it down to them?
I've never found it to be hard. I think they understand enough. I mean, it's not like people really going to tell you, like, well, no, I don't. Yeah, that I've never faced.
What about for you, Lance?
Yeah, well, I'm going to agree with the first officer with in reference to seeing people on the street and having that same experience where, hey, you see the officer over there, I'm going to have him take you to jail if you do something wrong. Having that same type of interaction with the community. But when I said earlier about me being a lot older, it's because I just have many more years in law enforcement, and I've seen it from different states and different perspectives. It's difficult being Black and blue. It's difficult being a Black officer and wearing a blue uniform. That's my personal opinion, okay? Because I've seen 30 years of the change. It is difficult to explain to the public, especially like family members that'll say, how can you work in a job that doesn't like us? It's hard to straddle that fence to say and try to explain it where you stay true to yourself as a police officer, but also you staying true to your community and to your family and explain it to them so that they kind of understand and get it. It's hard, and for me, because I feel like I'm holding the weight of the world on my back. Like, I feel that if I was Caucasian, a Caucasian officer, I can probably get away with a little bit more, but that ain't going to happen because I'm not Caucasian, right? I understand the good old boy system because we have it, all right? If you're not down with the right set of people, you could take a Caucasian officer and a Black officer, and if the Caucasian officer that hangs out with the right crew or the right supervisors, they can do the same thing and get a pass, but you find yourself on the red carpet, not on the red carpet, on the hot seat trying to explain why this happened. Okay, or you might find yourself terminated. And then it's those mental struggles also. It's also appearing that when you're wearing that uniform as a Black male officer, that you always have to be perfect in the street because people are always recording. And we already have, as being a Black male, a difficult time in society anyway. I've had the experience of going to Walmart, and I saw this lady come out and she clutched up her purse and went around the other side when she saw me walking up. And I'm like, I'm the one that's going to protect you, but you don't know that because I'm in plain clothes. But to actually have that experience, I was saying to myself,
it never stops for you as a Black man.
It will never stop.
It never stops.
It never stops. It never stops. And not to prolong the conversation, but I did have a white officer ask me, why every time something happens, Black people always bring up slavery? I don't understand it. But because I know who the person is, I knew that they were not being malicious in that question. You know what I mean? So there's always explaining. there's always explaining why things are the way they are, why it's so divisive when it's a black and white issue.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
15 and a half years.
And how long have you been in law enforcement?
15 years.
So it's definite. There's going to be a difference in how you see things, because you've been doing it from New York and then here, and then, you double the time. So you have those experiences. So let me ask this question. So, of course, with the years, you have many more years, double the time. So you're seeing things differently. When you became an officer, the times were totally different than when they came in officer 15 years in. So right now, I want to ask this question to go a little bit deeper. With a spotlight on law enforcement, not just wherever you may work, all across the country, and we're seeing this negativity, we're seeing the bad seeds. And of course, we don't know the whole story. And you're looking at it as a Black person and law enforcement, because you're seeing it on both sides. With that spotlight, how do you navigate trying to change the narrative, trying to be, okay, this is looking real ugly, but this is what I do. So how am I going to try to make a difference to where we're not looking like the bad guy all the time?
I'm not doing anything different. I'm carrying myself the same way I always have. Look professional. My appearance, from my dress to I'm just gonna be honest, my physique, come here, everything about it. I want to look the part. I want to demand respect. So nothing's changed. I don't feel like I do anything any different.
So what do you say to the community when they ask you a question about certain things happening? They want your opinion. Because I get people asking me questions. I'm like, that's not my working in the public. I get the question. How do you even, I don't know I have no what to say, because if I say something working for where I work, all of a sudden I'm representing everyone and this is what she said. I'm like, that's not what I said. So I'm asking you, being in law enforcement with everything going on, people are going to ask us, well, what's your opinion? How do you really feel? How do you answer those questions to where you're not either one side or the other, and also educate them on all they need to know to a point is what I'm really asking you. Like, how do you do that?
Just answer it honestly to the best of my ability. Just educate them. I mean, if I see it differently, I'll tell them that. That's all I can do.
And what about for you?
When they engage me, you do have to just bring it down, because the public does not know. You have to bring it down to their level. So you have to show them, look, use of force or deadly use of force encounters nationwide with officers compared to the population of 360, 380 million people is about 1,100 people a year. That's nationwide, okay? No officer wants to shoot anybody, because whether that officer shot him and it was a good shoot or it was a bad shoot, he's still a bad officer according to the public. He is now going to get hanged publicly. His family's now getting death threats. Everything about his life has changed, no matter how good he actually did, because the public doesn't understand and they just see an officer has killed somebody. So to break it down to the public when they ask these questions, and have them understand, we're not going out here looking to hurt people. That's the last thing we want. We want to do our 8, do our 10, do our 12, and go home. If we don't get paid per arrest. We don't get paid per citation. Our check doesn't change whether we arrest 30 people or we arrest no people. So I would rather have a whole career of never stopping anybody, never arresting anybody. That would make my life so much easier. I could catch up on my Netflix and my Amazon shopping, but it doesn't work like that. So I try to let them know we're not out here we're not trying to put people in jail for the sake of putting them in jail. People have done something that has now put them in a position they have to go to jail to go to a court of law, and then they will stand in a court of law and see if they actually can be proven guilty of whatever the offense is. And once you start breaking it down to people or the public, they get a better understanding, because they're so close-minded as, that's the police, that's them, they're bad, they're just here to take me to jail. Never seeing their side of it. What did I do to have to be placed in handcuffs, taken to the jailhouse? Their self-responsibility.
Having that conversation to break it down for them, because so many of us will not have an interaction with law enforcement.
Correct.
To have that conversation. And my experience with law enforcement, my very little experience with law enforcement, is some are very receptive, like, let me explain this to you. And some, because a lot's going on, because you're human, they're raw, they don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to even hear anything. So I'm thinking, for me as a civilian in this, there's many faces that we see and many types of attitudes that we get from it. Either you get someone who's like, let me explain to you what's going on. Or you get some who are like, you don't understand. And it's like, well, just help me understand, because I'm not in your job and you're not in mine.
Correct.
And that's where I'm thinking many of us have that type of negative feels, because explain to me what's going on. Explain to me why I have to see this as a different way, because you're seeing it from the inside out. Like, okay, you already know what they're feeling when they walked up there, what they're going through. If they had a call before they're trying to get down from, you already know that, because this is what you do. I don't know that. And of course you have to deal with the family and everything else. And we forget you're human. We forget that you have a family. We forget that you're a person as well, because we feel that you forget we're people as well. So with everything, how hard do you think it'd be to change the perception of law enforcement and the people in law enforcement? Do you see a change coming anytime soon, or do you think it's going to be a real long road?
I say if we can, on both sides, the community and police, actually get together and have a conversation. The problem is we are so separated. Most interaction people have with police is when they're getting stopped for speeding, some kind of traffic citation, or they need assistance. Their house got broken into, they just got assaulted. Other than that, there is no cross communication. So in most people, when you get a ticket, it's a bad experience. Even though it went smoothly, you still consider it a bad experience. So you have now marked all police as they're only here to dig in my pocket or take me to jail.
Right.
Where every other part of public safety, they're encouraged to interact. The kids love to play on the fire truck, and the fireman, everybody loves the fireman, and everybody hug them, and they can stand out on the corner and with their little boots and collect for cancer or whatever the issue is. Everybody loves them, The only way for the community and law enforcement to come back together like it used to be is through communication and engagement. That's what we're missing. We can unite that gap very easily. We just have to find a way to create that public open dialogue, and not in public forum settings, but just on the street talking to people, and part of it is law enforcement, because we are in our Tahoes, we are in our cars, we're doing 30 down the street, our windows are up, our AC's going, our good time radio is on, we're probably texting whatever else we're doing. So we're not paying attention to the community when, Miss Seals, Miss Johnson, Miss Betty says, hey, I want to talk to you, but, so we kind of create that problem in a sense, because we are not open, and I say open, we're not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Receptive?
No, not receptive. We're not able to be engaged, because we're just typing on our MDTs and doing everything else. We don't, as law enforcement, we don't create those opportunities like it should be.
So if the opportunity is created, what should it look like? Because I've seen town halls. That's a crash. That's awful, because when you get too many people at one time and you're sitting up somewhere and they're just standing up, there's too much.
Correct.
There's too much going on.
Correct. Right.
So if you're willing to have the conversation, you're willing to say, well, you know what, I own it. This is part of our fault because we're so engaged in doing other things, to have the community engagement with the citizens. What should it look like? What would make it to where you'd want to sit down and have those conversations? How should it look like for you?
Well, stuff like this, honestly. Strongest, most powerful entity is the media. I mean, so if somebody could set up just positive Facebook pages, YouTube pages, podcast, where literally officers or whoever, just professionals, sit around and kind of break down situations. I mean, people listen, podcasts are extremely popular. Everybody has a podcast. The YouTube, the Instagram, just positive stuff like that in the media. That right there, because that's the only thing people even pay attention to. Nobody watches the news. Ain't nobody under the age of 50 probably watches the news anymore. 60, really. I mean, my aunt, 77, she watched the news, but that's not the people we need to worry about. We need to worry about the 25 to 35-year-olds, the media. You got to flood the media instead of, because what do people see? People always have automatically, I remember people started pulling out their phone and recording me on calls, and I was just like, oh, it was such a shock. Well, now it's...
You're used to it now.
I automatically assume they're doing it, and I just don't see the phone.
Right.
And so now it's like, I already start my shift wondering, am I going to be on YouTube today? What am I going to end up on today, basically?
What about you, Lance? What do you think we need to have? Do you agree with just the...
No, a couple of things. I know that we are busy when we're in the vehicles driving around, but a lot of times, you know, you're going from call to call to call. And, you know, that's still no excuse to be able to, where we can't stop and wave and say hi to the people in the community. But a lot of times when you're going from call to call, you're like, I just finished one and now I'm on to the next. So we kind of get that tunnel vision, right? Mm-hmm. But I think a lot too, social media would help, these podcasts. But until people, I guess, start feeling a little bit more comfortable, a lot of times that face-to-face is where it's at, because you see the authenticity in the people. You know, when you're behind the scenes, you can say what you want, right? But when it's face-to-face, you can tell how genuine a person is when they're having a conversation with you. You're right with the town hall meetings, but if, like some of these complexes that's here, even if they opened up like their community rooms or whatever, and like these property managers would say, hey, we would like a couple of police officers to come over to our community center, or, you know, whatever available room they have at their property, and whatever day, and say, hey, listen, I'd like to invite the people that live here and invite the police officers to come, and let's just have a casual conversation. Mm-hmm. And open it up to, so if the people ask those questions, like, we get it all the time. Well, if there's a shooting, why you don't shoot them in the knee? You know, and you can answer those questions, and then people, you'll see their face say, you know, the reaction is like, oh, I didn't know that. Or a lot of times, why did this happen? They're getting secondhand information, and they believe this is how all police react when it's a traffic stop. Well, why did they have to do it this way? Then you take the time to explain it. Then you start to see the light bulb go off. Because a lot of times people are misguided and they get misinformation when they look at the news all the time. Because the news, we know, is what? Based off of ratings. So they want the juicy stuff, right?
And that's the hard part, because I agree with you. You know, the town halls are just, it's, you know, you're up for slaughter. It's even if it's a regular, if you're a politician, it's up for slaughter. So that has not worked, because some people come there just to, you know, poke you with certain questions.
And to vent. People just want to talk.
To vent.
You know.
And we're human, and it's only something you want to listen to. What you want to listen to. I'm just being honest. But what I would like to know is, if we did something like that, let's say you were invited, how many officers, let's be honest, would really be receptive to go? You can't give somebody pre-questions when it comes to, please come and talk to my community. This apartment complex, there's 1,000 people here or 400 people here. Please just come. You can't always give them pre-questions. You're going to get the side question. How many officers do you really feel are comfortable enough to have that type of intimate conversation? Because of media and being recorded, no one wants to get caught saying the wrong thing, because the media can be a blessing and a damn curse, because they're going to come around and the one wrong part of that sentence that doesn't sound right, that's what gets leaked out. Mm-hmm. So that's also kind of like, I hear you, but also the protective part of me is, man, these people are ready to just broadcast. Well, they said shoot them in the leg. What do you mean? You're going to shoot everybody? They're going to take that one bit. So how many officers do you really think in all your years, and even now, will be really receptive to we're not seeing the same faces all the time talking about it? Would it even work in 2021?
As a whole, or just where we work? What do you have? I mean,
give me both. Like, do you really feel in 2021 we're ready to do that, or can you see this happen probably later on?
A small percentage. Yes, small enough percentage, I'd say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's a start.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'll become cumulative. I think once officers become comfortable having the conversation, because think about it, right? All these last, 5, let's even take it from the Trayvon Martin and bring it forward, right? All of these years, no one's ever asked police officers their opinion, right? It was just always just the opinion of the public. A lot of officers just said, well, you know what? I've never been asked. I've never been given a forum to go out and say, well, this is why we do what we do. Because if you're a good officer and you know your job and you do your job well, there's no question that you can't answer.
Well, here's the thing.
Where you can't feel, where you'll feel uncomfortable.
Here's the thing. Unfortunately, as Black people, when you're in certain careers, be it you're an attorney, law enforcement, doctor, a public servant, some people who are not, it's not about book smarts, it's a certain type of education, feel now you must be rallying for us now. No matter what, I shouldn't have to ask you to do anything. And people don't understand it's a slow crawl sometimes. Just getting in the door and actually seeing what's going on and seeing the environment and knowing your lane and like, okay, well then I can change lanes at this point in time. I think many people think, why must I ask you to speak? Should I speak up on it? Not knowing you don't know what's going on in this particular culture, that I just can't speak up like that. I have to maneuver myself. And that's where I think the education comes in, where I have to tell people that I know, and I'm just a city employee. Like, listen, there's some things you will not catch me talking about, because if I said it, it'll be in the paper. This employee for this particular thing said this, and all of a sudden I'm representing all of it. And that's going to be a problem. And people think you're sitting back because, oh, now you're part of this. No, I need to sit back and pay attention, because I may not be able to invoke this change today, but you'll feel it in 3 years from now or 2 years from now. I agree with you, but I think we forget as the community that it's not that easy just to do something, because we're asking you, we want to know right now when you're probably still processing, still trying to figure it out to where you're not causing a rift. So let me lead into this. We know there's bad seeds in your job. We see it. Even if we don't understand all the backstory, there are bad seeds that's making your job difficult. If something happens in Washington State and someone acts a plumb fool out there, you're going to be like, your job going to be hard today, because now we're all heated. How do you maneuver the bad seeds amongst your peers? What does that look like? Is there a fear to say anything? Do you self-police each other? How does it look?
I just think that, you know what, and I'm quite sure we can all agree. It doesn't matter if there's a bad police officer in another state, it's every police officer in every single state, right? So we have to self-check ourselves first, because if I do something wrong, it's every single police officer that wears the uniform. I don't care what color. That's just how we all are. I think it's important for us to check ourselves first. And then if I see someone acting out of sorts, right, I need to pull that person to the side. If there's a scene, if there's an active scene, because we all know, if you're out there and you're running and gunning, you're chasing somebody and there's a fight going on or whatever, the adrenaline is up. But someone has to be mindful that once those handcuffs go on, if someone else wants to try to take an extra kick or punch, you need to be able to push that person out the way and get them out of what we call the OODA loop, right? Mm-hmm. You're just kind of running on this one focus, right? We need to be able to push you to the side. The other thing, too, is if I see an officer and we're not in that situation that did something that didn't look right, it's up to me to say, because I'm protecting myself as well, and I'm protecting that officer. Hey, listen, dude, what you did the other day, that didn't look good. I don't think you should have done that, and then explain it. It's up to that person to either take it or leave it. I can't control the next man's actions. I can only tell them what I saw and what the perception is. And we all know everyone's walking around with a cell phone and recording. So if I'm saying to you, hey, listen, we don't know who was out there recording you, but what you did was it was out of pocket. It was wrong, and let that person process it, because we're all alpha types. We're A types, right? I don't want anyone telling me that I was wrong. Mm-hmm. I can't handle that. But then I might go home and sit down and say, damn, yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah. Do y'all agree?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, on a day-to-day basis, you don't see egregious violations, so what we do see is kind of pushing that line a little bit. So you do get with the person you're working with, hey, you need to chill out. That could have gone, bad, had this, this, and this. But as far as how the media sees us, that we just see corruption and abuse on a daily and we just turn a blind eye to it, that's not the reality of police work. It's those little, I guess the word be microaggressions that we can see, and like, if we don't correct that will fester into something major that will turn into something that will hit YouTube or Instagram or something like that, and then damn all police officers. So we do try to check each other, because if he messes up, I messed up, because we all wear the uniform.
So let me ask this question, and then I want to leave with my last question. So racism in your job, have you struggled with that, or have you experienced that in your 15 years, your 30 years, be it with community, because we can be raw and ugly, and we're going to call you things to rile you up to see how far we can push it. I know that's probably all of you experienced that, but what about amongst your peers and in law enforcement? 15 and a half years for both of you, 30 years. I know you've probably experienced something, and how have you processed that, and how did you deal with that?
Peers, coworkers, or peers, family? I mean,
Coworkers.
just simply.
Let's talk about coworkers
okay,
right now.
All right. I haven't really.
You haven't experienced it?
Just blatant.
No.
No. It's the people they have be intelligent enough to be like, oh, okay, that's what that is.
That's what.
But outside of that blatant racism, I'd say no. I've never.
Nothing blatant for either of you?
Blatant, no. I mean, as officers, we are a raw A-type. We do say some off-the-wall stuff, but it's understood. They're going to say it. You're going to say something back. And it's not to be vindictive or evil. It's just third grade, you say it, I say it back, and then at the end of the day, we're still going to break bread together. So blatant racism, no, but the culture is a little looser, not so.
I understand.
It's not so politically correct. I'll say that when we're in the.
Do you think people forget? Because you can be one way amongst your coworkers, right? And it's that freedom, it's that liberty. Do you think some people forget to, when you walk out of this environment, you can't, that liberty can't be the same because people are not going to understand that? And that's where the problems come in?
I don't think those people care. So
that's what I mean. Some people just don't care. Yeah.
And they will go and post on social media, their personal social media pages, exactly how they feel. They're that same person at work.
So at least you know the devil that you know.
I respect that. I respect
that you know it.
Yeah. You're being authentic. You being who you are.
Right.
I can respect that. I don't have to guess. I don't have to.
The same thing for you. You don't have.
Right. No,
we know
agree.
who they are. We know who they are.
You know.
Everybody knows. Yeah.
You know who they are. So let me ask this question: how do you take care of yourselves mentally? Because what you do is difficult, and you've all been doing it for quite some time. 30 years, 15 and a half years. It's a long time to be in that position of serving and protecting people who, we appreciate you, but many do not. And they let you know it. And you get beat up in the media. You get beat up on the street verbally. Your life is in danger. Every day you set out and to protect people who may not care for you, may hate you because of the color of your skin, because you're a man, because you're a law enforcement. So what do you do to keep your wellness in check? Or are you still battling that? So what do you do to take care of yourself?
I can say first and foremost, I am not a police officer. It's what I do. This is not my life. When I take that belt off, when I go home, I'm just me. So I have other things I like to do that are not law enforcement related or anything to do with law enforcement. I do things. I have a life. I live outside of this. We do work with some people that this is what they do when they're not at work. They're listening to the radio. They're calling. Hey, what's going on? They want to know. They need to know. It's not that interesting to me. When people come to me and like, hey, what happened on the street the other day at this intersection? And I say, man, I was off. Yeah, but don't you know? I don't care. When that radio goes off, it doesn't come back on until I'm forced to turn it on when I go in the roll call, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, having a life outside of police work is how I survive. It's my detox and detune moment to be just regular Joe Blow, enjoy my life, and then when I put the uniform on, I do my job, so I have to do it, and I come back.
Let me ask you before I move on to everyone else, have you always been that healthy with it to know how to separate the two, or did it take you some time to separate it?
Of course, when you first become a police officer, there is a point of, I'm the police. But if you have any kind of maturity about you, you grow out of it and you see as fast as that badge can go on, it can be taken from you, from something you did or just have been perceived to have done. So once you separate that, it's easy to, you see, it's just a job at the end of the day. You know, if I lose this job, I can go work at a refinery. I can go work for a construction company. I can do what, it's just a job. It's people that take it personal that end up with the health problems, the mental health problems, especially because this is their identity. I guess in high school and growing up, they didn't have an identity. Now they have become, this is them, you know, badge on my chest. You better respect me. And that's where the issues come in.
Right. And for you?
All these years later, I realize now I've done quite a poor job. I've done quite a poor job of
your mental
my
wellness.
mental, but because the gym has always been my thing. I go to the gym, that's my counselor, and I go in the gym, put the headphones on, and the world doesn't exist. But I have to do more than that. And because I don't really realize. So you start talking to people, and you start talking some of the stuff you've seen or this, and you just realize how little death means. Because somebody can say, "Oh, my uncle died," you be like, "Oh, okay," because you see death. I mean, I just think of all the dead bodies I've seen. I mean, that's just a normal thing, and you realize like, man, I probably need to talk to somebody, man.
Because you disconnected way too much now. It's so common
you just
for
don't
you.
realize how horrendous of a job how horrendous of a profession this can be until you talk to others that are outside of it about the simple stuff to us that we sit around at lunch and eat tacos and talk about, like, man, remember that that rollover accident where the body got ejected, and it's just, but you break it down. A body was ejected from a vehicle. You walked up, you saw brain matter scattered on the ground. That's horrendous. We were not.
And you're still carrying it. You don't realize it, but you're still carrying it.
Yes. And especially, I went to a male dead in a home for 2-3 weeks in the middle of the summer. This is recent. And had to extract this male who was an extreme hoarder I still can see the body. I still can see the worms, the maggots. I'm sorry, excuse me for being graphic, but I still can see these things. And it took me, hey, man, that's not good. Like, why do I still see that? So
what are you doing now that you've recognized that the gym is not all, that's one way, but you need something else and maybe something else. So what are you now working on? Are you trying things out? Are you seeking a therapist to talk to about these things? What are you doing to
still in progress on that one? Yes.
What's your barrier with it?
Is it because I haven't taken the time to sit down and do it? Because on off days, I'm no different than the other officers said. I have other things I do. I get the cop off me. I go and edit some videos, go and do this, go do that.
So would you say that you're avoiding it then? Because you're filling yourself with other things to do, that you're not seeking out the help that you need because you don't want to talk about it?
No, just haven't taken the time. Just haven't been intentional enough.
Lance?
No, I can agree with him. This is mental wellness for police officers is not something that's been it's not a top priority. When we take this job as police officers, we're out there running and gunning and helping people, and we put ourselves on the back burner. So we become numb to these things that most people would have to definitely seek some type of therapy immediately, right? But we become numb to it because with this job, we go from call to call, and the call can vary from something so simple as getting a cat out of a tree, so to speak, right, to something as difficult as what the other officer just described, right? But we're the superhuman beings. We're the ones, when everyone else is in trouble, they hit 911. We come in with a cape and we fly in and we save the day. Who saves the day for us? Where do we go where it's comfortable and where we can access and feel comfortable going to a certain place without the worry of, will this information that I gave that therapist over there somehow leak its way back to my employment? And then all of a sudden they're looking at me with the side eye, can I really work with you on the street, or should I put you out on the street? And that's a major barrier for a lot of officers. That's why most officers won't disclose that they're having any type of mental trauma or something is going wrong upstairs, because we compartmentalize every single call we go to. Then the brain gets packed with all of those things in the compartments, and then we have nowhere else to push that next episode or that next incident, right? So, I mean, I feel for what the other officer says, because I know for 30 years, I was never told that it was okay to seek assistance. So I said, well, shoot, how do I get over that day? Maybe that glass of wine looks nice, or you just, I mean, obviously I don't go to the gym as often as I should, but after this last week, I will start back at the gym, right? But it's difficult. This section, the mental wellness, is out of it's not a priority for a lot of officers because it was never built in to the job, so we don't think about it. We just think about going from call to call to call. And, when I get out of work, maybe I just won't think about it anymore. And I'll do other stuff, fishing or bowling. Like, I like to listen to jazz, right? Jazz is my thing. And that helps me get over, because I have a long ride back home. I put that jazz music on and the day just kind of goes away. But it doesn't mean that the incidents have released themselves, because they can always creep back up, especially if you go to another call that reminds you of the other one.
And I think, unfortunately, taking away the profession for men, it was not celebrated or even acknowledged that you need to worry about your wellness. It was white knuckle it and go. Suck it up, buttercup, do what you have to do. Why are you worried? You need to work. And how dare you have a breakdown when we've seen men historically over the decades take their life and have been at a breaking point. You're like, what happened? Well, hell, he's losing his company. He's breaking down because you feel you have no one to talk to, because you were not raised in the sense of it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to feel that way. And like you just said, being in your profession, if there's any kind of wellness issue, you carry a gun. Okay, listen, I need you. Give me that. Give me that back. Give me that back. So I understand, but I think luckily now we're moving towards, we want you to be mentally well, because we've seen so many instances where it's like something had to be going on with that person for that breakdown to happen. Like what's triggering all of this for something to happen? And so hopefully you'll work on making the time to do what you have to do. And you're already working on your wellness. You're already disconnected as you do as well. So I want to say thank you to that. Any final thoughts or questions you want to ask?
I just appreciate, having this space, because this is a safe space, right? Which actually assists with the mental wellness. You're getting some stuff off your chest. So I do appreciate all the participants and the attendees today. And thank you for your time, for being a great moderator.
But no, thank you so much, both of you, for doing this. I know it's hard to be transparent and feel comfortable talking about certain things that you may have never even thought about. But now that you're thinking about it, hopefully you can, it can fester in your brain and you have some more to say. You're welcome to come back anytime. So I want to say thank you for doing this.
Thank you.